Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Namaste and welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. It's Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien, and we want to help you get healthy, feel good, and live life to the fullest every single day. And one of the things we do on this show is discuss breaking news in health and wellness. And just 2 days ago, The Economist posted a story online entitled, "Take a Deep Breath, Pot Comes to Yoga Class." But is there actually benefit to smoking pot and practicing yoga together? Well, this certainly sparked an interesting conversation online, and we're going to be talking about this a little bit later in the show. As always, though, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in and supporting our show. And please, if you want to get in on this conversation, we want to hear your thoughts. Give us a call at 877-927-6648. It's a beautiful day here in Tampa Bay. Tom O'Brien, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm great. What's going on?
Well,
how's the market? The Dow closed down today.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, for me, it's like the Groundhog Day. See, because I think the market's going to go down, but every single day it goes up.
Well, that's exciting.
So, yeah, it's great.
So we should be optimistic then.
Hey, you know, it's blowing my mind how high the market is, actually.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I'm a bear. So there's bulls and bears. I'm a bear.
Oh.
But I don't have my claws. There's not much left because
I thought you were a tiger.
I am a tiger. You know. I better stick to it being a tiger, I think.
I think you should. Yeah, well, there's plenty of people who want your advice on how to deal with the market, so you're doing something right. So listen, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever been in a dangerous situation or needed help where a Good Samaritan paused and actually helped you? Somebody you didn't know who went out of their way to help you?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
When?
And
recently?
Yeah, recently. We were, Bridget, myself, the kids, we were out on the water. Mm-hmm. And the engine shut down. And so what happens on a boat is that, like in life, okay, but what happens on a boat specifically is if someone's going by and they see, you know, a boat in need, you're supposed to stop and help them, mm-hmm. You know. But bottom line, most people, it doesn't. You go by. But huge boat, you know, come by. The guys looked, you know, there was 3 couples, and they stopped and they helped us. And it was awesome because, you know, the context of being on a boat, I mean, we were safe. I had anchors and all that. I could throw them out very quickly. Mm-hmm. But as you know, it was great.
How did they know you were in trouble? Did you have a flag up, or did you wave them down?
I waved them down.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, what ends up happening, you should be cognizant of what's around you anyway. And they were looking. I was at the bow, and I'm looking around. I'm saying to myself, "Oh man, hold it. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
And they could see I was saying, "What's going on?" And then I saw the captain of the boat looking over, mm-hmm. and I knew that. I said, "Okay, this is the guy that I can ask." Okay. So I just waved to him, and he came right over.
That's good.
Yeah. And it is because in the context of that, it was much harder for this guy to come over than a lot of other boats that went by me because this boat was a good 35 to 40 feet.
Wow.
And at that point, I had already had the anchor down, so I wasn't out of the channel, but I was going to get close. Mm-hmm. So for him to bring a boat over that big and get us out of there.
Oh, yeah. It's nice. Yeah. I mean, how many boats would you say went by? A lot or a few before someone helped you?
It was quick. It wasn't that bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, this came up because, so get this, my husband, the last 3 weeks, has been a Good Samaritan. And I'm so proud of him. But it really brings up a question as to why don't people stop and help others more often? Because 3 weeks ago, so it's been once a week for the last 3 weeks.
Really?
3 weeks ago, he was taking the children to school.
Okay.
And in the middle of the road along the way, a woman was broken down in her car.
Yes.
And right in the middle of the road, people were going around her.
Right.
Nobody was helping.
Right.
And she wasn't getting out of the car because it's not a safe situation,
yeah.
right? So he took the kids, dropped them off, turned around on the way back. She's still sitting there. So he thought, well, why isn't anyone going to help this woman? So he got out of the car and pushed her out of the road.
Yes.
And then a police officer came along and helped. I guess
Right.
someone finally called a police
Sure.
officer for her. 2 weeks ago, similar situation, a woman with a flat tire in an intersection. And he said people were just going around,
Ooh,
driving
right,
past,
right.
nobody helping.
That's disgusting.
And then get this morning,
Okay.
near our neighborhood at a
Yeah.
major intersection.
Yeah.
So just as you are entering or exiting the neighborhood to a major road,
Okay.
was an elderly woman, about 85, he said. She looked
Yes.
to be about 85 years old, in her robe and slippers. So,
Lost?
nightgown, yeah.
Okay.
Walking down the middle of the street.
Wow.
He said cars were driving around this woman.
Oh, my God.
Literally going around her
Right.
to avoid her. And he thought, okay, something's not right, you know.
Right.
So he pulled into a parking lot and walked out into the middle of the street and stopped traffic
Nice.
to help this woman.
Good move, Scott.
I know. I'm so proud of you. And it turns out this woman was having a little dementia.
Sure.
And 1 minute talking about she was looking for the bus stop, and
Yes.
then the next minute talking about how she couldn't go anywhere dressed like this, you know,
Okay,
so
sure,
definitely
right,
unclear. But it just made me think, you know, how many people actually drove past this woman
Right.
before someone got out of their car to help her?
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
I know. It's
You
sad. It's
I mean, people in a hurry to get to work, or, you know, I guess, you know, if you've got children in the car and they have to be at school by a certain time, you don't want to make your children late. Maybe it's kind of, you know, selfish reasons, I guess. I mean, wouldn't you think that? I mean, unless you're having your own emergency, wouldn't you think more people would have stopped, or someone would have stopped sooner?
Yeah, I guess you know, this is a great question, because over the course of years, right? You can see how that has gotten less and less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt that the world itself is more me, me, me.
Mm-hmm.
So the real question, you know, really comes down when I'm looking at that. I would say that most times outside in a situation like that, I'm pretty cognizant that I'd probably stop. Right?
Yeah.
But check this out. This is interesting. You talk about a head game, and of course, you know, in life, folks. Okay, I talk to myself a lot. You know what I mean? Just whether
I do too, a lot.
in the context.
In
of
fact, just walking into the building tonight, I was
So,
talking to myself out loud.
This is yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I was surprised of what I talked to myself about 2 days ago. So this is what it was, right? And this is a terrible story, right? I think it was in Denver. It was somewhere. 2 days ago, a woman got killed, right, in the middle of the country, right? And what happened is that two guys come up to the door, homeless guys, right? And they said they had they broke down, and the woman was by herself. They let her in the house. She let them in the house, right? They ended up killing her.
Oh,
Okay?
awful.
And I was reading the story, right? I was reading the story. I'm saying to myself, oh, man, that is such a bummer, right?
Yeah.
You know, young woman, whole ball of wax, 22 caliber or something. So I started thinking about that, right? And I says, okay, what would I do? And I realized right then, I says, oh, this is really interesting, you know, because I can go one way or the other really quick, you know, tell people to take a hike in about 2 seconds. And I do. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And in that context, I says, oh, that'd be interesting. I says, you know what? No, coming up to your house is like a different situation. But is it really a different situation?
Yeah.
But even when I saw that, depending on if I was in the house by myself, I may do one thing. But if Bridget was in the house, I wouldn't let them in.
Right.
And
you wouldn't want
I
to open
put
the
that
door.
right through my head. And that's pretty wild. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you know, sure. You always want to take caution in situations like
Yeah,
that. You know,
right.
I mean, let's face it. How often does
But
something like that happen?
that's right. But that's different than someone going down the street. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly, different situation.
Yeah, right.
The question is, you know, we always hear about those stories.
Right,
You know, the news
right.
sensationalizes them and blows
Right,
them
right.
out of proportion. Not out of proportion. I mean, that's
No.
absolutely terrible.
Right.
But, you know, just that's all they talk about.
But out in the street, you should help people, period.
Yeah, you don't hear the stories of people helping people, and I'm sure there's a lot of it going on out there than, you know, we know or
Well, you know
realize.
what's interesting is that I wonder what the message is with Scotty. That's three times in a row. That's pretty cool.
You're the second person who asked that question.
Isn't that? Yeah, seriously, right?
Agreed. Yeah, because we talk about all the time. Sometimes you, you know, you manifest or you will energies towards yourself.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
So maybe he really needs to help somebody, and they're just, you know, all those opportunities are presenting them.
Yeah.
So it was really a good Samaritan effort, and I wanted to just applaud my husband and everybody else out there.
We need more of it.
We need more of that. You know, we talk about this connection in the world that makes the world a better place. And, yeah, you know, are people making friends with their neighbors? Are you going over and saying hello or waving when the strangers pass? You know, my grandfather always did that in Texas. We're from a small town.
Right.
And I remember explicitly asking him when we'd be driving in his pickup truck. He'd have his right hand on the wheel and his left hand on the window, and anytime a car passed, he'd give him a wave. And I'd always ask him, Papa,
so cool.
Did you know that person?
Yeah.
You know? And he said, no, I'm just being friendly, you know?
Isn't that cool?
Being a friendly neighbor. So,
well, you know what's so funny? So, in cars, we don't do it as much. In boats, everyone still does it.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
so,
I mean, how could you not? Being on a boat
what is that all about, right?
Because you're ridiculously happy. I mean, being on a boat is so much fun. It's freeing. There's no worries. You know, you're having a great time. You don't have to be anywhere.
Right.
Everybody's like, hey.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
of course. But why can't we be like that more in life?
No, totally.
That's a really good question.
Right, right.
So that's a good lesson, I think, for all of us to be more that way.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally is.
We need more of that in the world.
No, we need that big time.
Yeah. You know, I just read this great story. So I was flying home yesterday from Shreveport, Louisiana. Spent the last 5 days there, which, by the way, talk about, I mean, my perception of this town is that it's a really sweet place.
Right.
It's the South. People are friendly. I'm only shown, you know, wonderful hospitality when I go, even by strangers. People still say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am.
Right.
It's just, I love it. I love it there, but maybe it's because I don't live there.
No, you know, I don't think so, because I remember that the three women that were on the retreat.
Yeah.
And they were dynamite.
They were so sweet.
And you got to love that Southern accent. There's no doubt.
I know,
that is
even
a cool
when they're
accent.
angry, they sound happy.
Isn't that funny?
I love it.
As they beat you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm only kidding.
Love. So yesterday on the airplane, there was a great story in the American Way magazine about Big Papi. Do you know who David Ortiz is?
Of course, I'm from Boston.
From Boston. And I had to bring this up with you.
And the Dominican, right? I mean, remember, everywhere when Tommy and I were lost, I think I used to say, hey, I'm from Boston.
Yeah. Listen, what a great guy he is. Number one, I mean, he's this huge, strong athlete, and his smile is like sunshine.
It is.
Well,
it is.
His smile just lights up the room. And the story was so inspirational. It talked about him, you know, coming from the streets of the Dominican Republic, and now that how he's hit it big, and, you know, he's probably going to be a baseball Hall of Famer.
Right.
He gives back so much to not only his adoptive town of Boston. I mean, he cares. He supports the people of Boston.
He does.
But he also has a children's foundation. It's called the David Ortiz Children's Foundation.
Okay.
And he helps children who are terminally ill or who have need for major medical needs.
Yes.
Medical support and assistance. And stories like that, that's the stories I'm telling you. I mean, I read this article the whole way. I mean, in fact, the whole issue of the magazine was great from my whole flight. And they talked about, you know, this awesome new car that's being developed called the Elf. It's actually a bicycle, but, you know, it was good, uplifting, positive stories. And I felt great. I was, you know, traveling for 2.5 hours, and they were really sweet stories. But I found him particularly inspirational because, you know, here's this really successful athlete, and you can see his heart through his, through his chest. He just is really giving back. Speaking of Boston, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you know that Boston has the riskiest drivers in the nation?
Really?
Is it like that up there? Are people road warriors? Is it crazy?
I guess so. I think it's, you know, being from there, that was just normal.
That's just how you drive.
Well, what happens is that we have a lot of rotaries. Okay, so you pull in and out like nothing, but we're used to that, so it's not a big deal. Like down here in Pinellas County, folks, they had a rotary at Clearwater Beach with water on it. They had to turn the water off because there were so many crashes. It's like, and people still don't know how to go down in a rotary around here,
like a roundabout.
which is a mind blower.
They're not used to it. They're not used to it.
Do you like roundabouts?
I can figure him out, all right? Look. But let's hope you're still not driving like a Bostonian down here in easy Florida. We'll be back with more mindful living in just a minute. Stay with us, folks.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy. A set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, everybody. For the next few segments, or a couple segments of the show, we're going to be talking about pot and yoga, or getting high before you practice. Proponents say that because yoga and pot both offer medicinal benefits, that the two can go hand in hand. Some people say it also helps them clear their mind and feels good to their body. In fact, they say if you use the proper type and amount, that you can actually enhance your practice and meditation. Join us on the line now is a woman who can actually help shed some light on pot and business in general. Jane West of Edible Events in Denver produces exclusive events that cater to your senses and combine visually stunning venues with decadent food and libations. Edible Events showcases the very best Colorado has to offer in the culinary, cannabis, and art scene. Jane, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Jane.
How are you?
I'm good.
How is it out in Denver? Sorry?
Wonderful. Well, it's wonderful. It's a perfect we're starting a fall day. It was like chilly this morning, which was nice for change.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's still nice and hot here in Florida. So, so how's your business going? How long have you been in business, Jane?
I started the company last fall, just as it became clear that our community here had really worked together. They did a lot with making putting the right legislation in place and working with local government. And it seemed like inevitable that on January 1st we would truly begin legally selling retail recreational marijuana. And that at that point was when I started putting together events that really catered to clients who preferred cannabis as a substance of choice.
So they prefer that over alcohol, you're saying, or would they combine the two?
I think everyone kind of has their own style. I think people tend to have, there's really excellent food at my events, so people do like to have a glass of wine, but in general, the main substance of choice is definitely cannabis.
And so had you been in event planning before? Was that your niche?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm 38 years old, and I've been event planning for my entire life out of New York, and then doing large-scale conferences for a company. So I've always been an event planner.
Beautiful.
You know, how is I was reading a couple, first off, it was really impressive, in the context of having a symphony have one. I was looking, he's talking about mainstream. That's about as mainstream
It
as
really
you get.
has gone mainstream, yeah.
And I was on your site, and I saw how that came down. How is the law when you're having an event? I guess it has to be a private event versus a public event. How does that work legally in your business now?
Well, so yes, we have worked closely with the city in order to jump through any hoops they may put in front of us to be able to hold these events, and they are currently considered private events. In my 8 months with the industry, I have a lot of contacts, some incredible business and dispensary owners in this arena who were all very supportive of the event series and willing to buy sets of tickets. So we've switched the events in the eyes of the city to being a private event, as the only way to be able to come is to be personally invited by Edible Events Company or part of a group within the Colorado Symphony. So currently, yes, open, public, ticketed cannabis consumption events are not something that are legal within the city, but we're very much hoping that sometime in the near future we'll be able to have a permitting system so that responsible business owners can apply for permits to hold responsible adult use cannabis consumption events.
I see. And I saw that the aspect of you don't distribute cannabis and all of that, but there's a bud master. How does that work? Is a bud master? Is that right?
So yes. So at different dispensaries, some of them have VIP rooms that they can walk you through the different types of cannabis they offer and talk to you about the different benefits or the way the different strains will affect you.
Okay.
At our events, we do something similar to that. The cannabis remains in a jar, and we talk you through, this is what a sativa looks like. This is what an indica looks like. We want to educate consumers on what they're buying, how it will affect them, and so that they can be educated about the substance and utilize it however is best for them. So yes, before our yoga events, we do have someone come in. His name is Max Montrose, and he is a cannabis sommelier. We like to call him an interpreter because he interprets the terpenes of different strains of cannabis. And it's really just mostly educating our consumers about how to find the right product, how to choose the right product for you and the effect you're looking to get. And then also, when you're actually purchasing that product, how to make sure what you're looking to buy is what you're actually receiving.
I see. Interesting.
It is. And I'm sure, you mentioned that you help ensure that the events that you're having are responsible. What else goes into that? How do you ensure that that's happening?
Well, we don't have any. I think one of the important points is that when events aren't permitted, then there's no one checking IDs. There's no formal fencing. You're not making sure the location is safe. Like, if you're having a permitted alcohol event in any major city nationwide, there's a lot of restrictions you have to follow. And I'm hoping to have permitted cannabis events so that all event planners within this realm have to also follow all those legalities and make sure that everyone's safe, whether that means, if it's a large enough event, having a med tent, or whether that means just like any other concert or major festival, or whether that means just making sure that all IDs are properly checked and there's a wristband system in place. That's how we can make these events responsible for whoever chooses to have them.
Right. I think one of the fears out there with people who aren't familiar with this is that, you know, smoking pot affects people, makes them make bad decisions, and, you know, a lot of people don't consider that alcohol has the same, if not more, of a dramatic effect on people who partake. So can you tell us what how one of your events would go? I mean, you know, are people acting off the wall or getting out of hand? And what types of events are you holding?
So, well, I encourage, I mean, I've had a lot of people who do, you know, there's a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about what a cannabis consumer looks like and and even stereotypes about how cannabis affects people. And to those people who may have that opinion, I encourage them to come to my events. They are very social. That's one of the pieces of feedback I most often received by cannabis consumers and non-cannabis consumers at the events, was how friendly and social and talkative everyone was, and how they met so many new people at the event, which isn't something that, like, it's not a meetup event, it's a symphony concert. So necessarily meeting new people isn't necessarily someone's primary reason for attending.
Right.
But it's a very social event. People are really happy, I feel like, to just be out of the closet in a social setting, consuming their substance of choice on a relaxing evening out. And so there's definitely a certain gleefulness that this is finally something that they can partake in Denver, Colorado.
Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the city of festivals.
Wisconsin?
Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee. So how long have you been in Colorado?
I've been here 9 years.
Yeah, so are you pinching yourself?
Kind of. I mean, it's definitely, I was not part of the legalization efforts. I was not like an active advocate in this movement in any way. Now, in the very short amount of time, relative to my professional career that I've been in this industry, I mean, I'll never go back. This is the most incredible group of entrepreneurs, dedicated, responsible professionals. The industry is so exciting. I mean, I just love working with this group of colleagues here, and they really work together with legislators, with lawmakers, and as an advocacy group as a whole to create a responsible set of rules and regulations to make this legal and have it actually work. And it's just really incredible to be working with them all every day.
Yeah, you know what's intriguing? I had I had 3 offices up in Alaska years ago, and at that point, it was legal in Alaska. What people forget is that Alaska was actually legal, and I'm only going back 20 years. Then they made it illegal. And I remember and I'm from Boston, so I didn't live up there, but I was going back and forth, right? And I remember the first time going there, and, you know, the guy in my office says, let's go down, and, you know, we're going down to the water. And I'm going down the water, and I'm watching these families, and I'm watching them smoking pot, and there's little kids running around, and like it's 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I says, this is amazing. But it was so normal. What I got out of that more than anything is that it was just totally normal. I said, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe it when they made it illegal again. Like, you know, it was like, wow, how did that work? Do you know what I mean? And even when they made it illegal up there, I guess it was a $5 or $10 fine, but I think it got worse. I think it went from, anyway. So it's pretty cool understanding that it is normal once it actually happens, right?
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like there's a really large demographic that of Americans that are only going to do something if it's totally legal.
Oh, there's no doubt.
They don't
Yes.
want to skirt the law. They don't want to, like, sneak out into the back alley, even though, they'll never, nab you for it. Like, they want to follow the letter of the law.
Well, it's dangerous because a lot of big jobs you can not make a living.
Yeah.
For, for a joint. You're going to be
Exactly.
kidding me. Go kill someone, you can make a living.
Jane, stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment with more Mindful Living. Stay with us.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at directionshares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, everybody. We're here with Jane West from Edible Events in Colorado. And Jane, I would like to know more about the pot and yoga movement. Do you see this as an event, a type of event that's on the rise?
I hope so. I mean, I think that it's not some. I think I practice yoga, and not every yoga class is perfect for a combination with cannabis. But for those sessions that you want to be more meditative or maybe follow a more like centered, slow pace, I think there can be a perfect accompaniment.
It's interesting because, I posted some comments online today and got so many comments back of completely opposing opinions. Some people who said, yes, I like to smoke before practice because it helps clear my mind, ease my tensions, and connect to my body and feel more free to flow. Others say, this clouds my judgment. I can't think clearly. I want, yoga's about being completely awake. So how do you respond to the naysayers?
Well, one of my first comments about that would be that I think that comes back to education about cannabis consumption and the different strains. When in states where cannabis isn't necessarily legal and you're not going into a store and knowing the strain and type that you're purchasing, and then also there's companies like Can Labs that do testing, and so you know exactly what you're getting in Colorado when you go in and purchase bud in a dispensary. So you can choose whether you want to go with more of an indica or sativa strain. And there are very distinct differences about how these strains are going to affect you. And so I feel like it's an unfortunate result of the, well, because it was illegal, but then also the resulting lack of education, that people may consume a strain that really isn't good for their own like demeanor, personality, or what they're hoping to get out of consuming cannabis. Like for me personally, on a Friday night, like I have 2 kids, and on a Friday night when it's the time to like open up a bottle of wine, the kids are in bed. If I have a glass of wine, I'm going to fall right to sleep. And so, like, I know that when it's just my husband and I at our home on Friday night, I would probably want just a couple tokes of a sativa, and it'll be like a pick-me-up that's perfect for me. But then if I were to, smoke a more stronger indica, then it would definitely put me to sleep.
That's so cool to know, right?
Completely different.
It's that dramatic, that difference,
it's true. That's the part that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Is that it really is true. These really, you can track the different, like, terpenes and the levels of CBD and the levels of THC and see why this is affecting you a particular way, and then you find the strain you like, and
that's
and
amazing.
it makes it a better user experience.
Yeah.
And I think for people that consume alcohol regularly, it's hard to imagine because the effects of alcohol in your body are so universal. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's ethanol you're consuming, and you're becoming intoxicated, and so it's a very familiar feeling whether you're drinking wine or beer, although some are stronger. So it's hard to imagine that there can be such different results just by consuming a different plant.
True. Some of the comments today, actually, one woman who I know and who is local to Clearwater is a brilliant yoga teacher and lived in India for many, many years. She also studied Ayurveda, which, as you may be familiar with, is the sister science to yoga. It's the holistic healing science from India. And she says that ganja, at least in yoga history or Ayurvedic science, is known to be a vata aggravating substance, which means gets you more up in your head. It's ungrounding and kind of gets your mind racing, which is the opposite of yoga. However, this is dating back, thousands of years to ancient texts. And what you're talking about, it seems, is really the progression we've seen with scientific studies and biological changes based on medicinal marijuana. I mean, there's been so many changes. And to me, there are so many people out there who look at marijuana as the devil. As it's so bad, it is a gateway drug, it's so harmful, and yet it's a plant. It's a natural plant.
I know.
And, you see people who are using medicinal marijuana for real issues, anxiety, depression, chronic pain, cancer side effects. You have millions of people taking pain meds for the same things, and those pain medications that are legal are causing more deaths every year in children on the street.
No, and CNN had a story 48 hours ago about how states with medical marijuana have fewer opioid overdose deaths.
I read that this morning.
Yeah.
It's in the Wall Street Journal this morning, actually, which is really cool. Yeah. It's a big deal because I never could figure out how these drug companies got Oxycontin and Oxy legal, and they can give them out like nothing.
Right, and it's a really
that's a total mind blower.
Well, So when we go back to specifically the effect in yoga, it's so wonderful to hear you're a yoga practitioner as well, and for the people who feel like that it would completely cloud their judgment, as you know, I mean, yoga is about being conscious and awake and feeling fully. Are there strains that enhance that experience?
Well, again, it really does depend on the user. We find that more of a hybrid. There's a lot that I can't speak to because of my knowledge base is not that deep about hybrids and how strains have become more universal and not so much pure indica and sativa anymore. But that I would suggest something more of a hybrid with actually a little bit more. This is just me personally. A little bit more sativa than indica because I do want to stay on my toes during yoga, and I want to be that hyper aware of what's going on, but that's just personally for me. Again, like in general, I would start out with a hybrid and kind of see what you'd like a little more or less of, and then move towards that end of the spectrum.
Sure, because what you're saying is some strains or some types would make you feel more sleepy versus more awake.
Yes, exactly.
In general.
Exactly. Yeah. And for some people in a yoga class, they might actually, especially for some really trained yogis, that sativa kick may be better at having them pay attention more. Pay attention more to what's happening within their body, because that does have such strong, like, relaxing meditative effects. But I just really think one of the best parts about even trying to utilize it as part of your practice is that it does increase your sense of awareness and perception. And so whether you're using it to focus more or whether you're using it to stay on your toes and pay more attention, it is just a unique experience in your yoga practice, and takes you out of your head to maybe help to develop that. So maybe you only do it once a month. Maybe you only use yoga and cannabis in conjunction once a month. But then that's just kind of a special session.
Sure. I just got a text from Craig in Texas who said, "Sign me up." So,
Jane, at your parties, right? What is the best food that they like?
No, you said your food.
I'm sorry?
I'll tell you that. It's not munchies. I mean, in general, munchies are the last food you should choose. I mean, a bag of
No, I
Doritos,
agree. I'm just curious.
dry, salty, universal flavor. The best things we have are ones that really evolve on your palate. So, for instance, like a bacon-wrapped date with, like, a blue cheese inside.
That sounds good.
Balsamic vinegar. Yeah, so, like, the first thing you taste is that tart vinegar, and then the crunchy bacon, and then the sweet date, and then, like, that blue cheese finish.
Yeah.
So we try to go with
That's
smaller
decadent.
items you really
She's an
savor.
event planner.
That's decadent. I
The
like
woman knows what she's talking about.
Totally. That's why I want to know.
Well, you have to come out. Our next one with the symphony is October 31st. And actually, we have we started a women's organization to encourage women to enter the industry, and they have a networking event in Florida on September 4th.
Really?
Next week. Yep, 1 week from tomorrow in West Palm Beach.
How can listeners find out more about that information?
You would go to our Eventbrite. You can go to womengrow.com and click there to get a ticket to the networking event. But it's really just a way, this is different than the events I planned with my business. This is a professional networking event for people that are interested in entering the cannabis industry.
Of course. Of course.
But
So
we do have a
let me ask
chapter
you something.
started in
Are the
Florida
women
already,
are the women taking over the industry out there?
I hope so.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Hey.
We're certainly the largest growing demographic of consumers, and so we might as well also be at the table making those branding and marketing decisions as brand
Really?
new products are being created.
So the consumer, the woman consumer, they smoke more pot than guys out there?
No, we're the largest growing. Actually, we would love more information. I would love more accurate information and data about this topic, and I think the more legalization becomes accepted on a nationwide level, people will be more candid about their use. So we'll have more accurate data. But, I think we're definitely the largest growing market. So, and I mean, some of the
That's like that movie. What was that movie with what is the series that the woman was always selling pot, right?
Oh, I don't even remember.
That's where that's probably coming from.
Jane, I got a question from a listener who said, don't you feel like smoking and practicing yoga affects your lungs? How do you take a deep inhale? What's your response to that?
Well, my response to that is to look into the effects of cannabis versus tobacco more, because I'm learning. I was on a panel with one of the public health professors at Denver University, and he pointed out actually that the effects of tobacco should not be compared directly to marijuana because they are such different substances, and marijuana actually can help subside the effects of asthma because it opens up your airways as opposed to closing them. Now, this was the first I had even heard of that, but it was a really good point, and I think we should look into it more. But I appreciate that. We also, in Denver, with legalization, have vaporizers that a lot of people prefer to use, which burn the cannabis just below combustion. So it's not very smoky at all. And you also really get to taste the flavor of the individual strain you're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally
and
makes sense.
And the edibles market. How talk more about that. You know, I've heard people say that's a little scary because the edibles are so strong.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of responsible business owners in the market right now that are working very hard. They started a campaign, a Just 5 campaign. So it's start low, go slow. There's more information being put out in conjunction with the government to make sure that these very high-dose edibles are something that we start to move more away from, so people can really know what they're consuming and the effects that that will be, and think of it more as a dose. So but they're also flying off the shelves, and most of the dispensaries I know are having a hard time keeping up with consumer demand.
Yeah.
I guess that was bigger than they thought, right? So the edibles are actually bigger than smoking it, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know how all those numbers actually come down, but I know that they're having a hard time keeping them on the shelf.
It does seem a little concerning, particularly the ones that look like candy with children. You know, if you just forget, one might be lying around with children around.
I could not agree more. And,
well, you eat one, you get hungry. You eat another one, you get hungry.
Well, I think the effects...
and so many of the edible creations are being made by people with a culinary background, so they are delicious.
Wow.
And you want to eat more. So, but really, it goes back to being about education and what you're consuming and the dosing, right? And unlike some nationally renowned journalists, you should make sure you know what you're eating and the dosage level and how it might affect you, and take all those things into consideration. But I certainly wouldn't want some of these scary stories to dissuade people from just trying, especially in a responsible way where you start low and go slow.
Exactly. I like that you keep reminding people to be responsible. That applies to everything. I mean, whether you're having a glass of wine, smoking a carton of cigarettes, right, or trying a toke of marijuana. What is exciting you the most about the industry?
Just potential in general. Like I said, I wasn't part of the actual initial movement as an advocate, and the more that I get into the field and learn more about the truly medicinal benefits of cannabis, as opposed to the recreational side, which was definitely how I entered into the market and the type of consumer I always was. It's really, really fascinating. And the more research they have about the cannabinoids and how your body has cannabinoid receptors, and there's a reason for all of these medicinal benefits. And I've had people come up to me regarding topicals that they're using for pain and soreness and arthritis they are converted.
Topicals, topical creams with the THC inside, or the chemical from the plant. Wow, that is fascinating.
And I'll be perfectly candid. When I first entered this market in December, January, I thought that, no, come on.
Right.
It's just a topical, and it really helps your arthritis, and it really helps your soreness. And I mean, I didn't know. I was uneducated about the value of this plant. And now that not only have I seen the science, like from companies like CanLabs, that show you exactly what's in what you're consuming, and then the results with so many people being having patients and being caregivers that are truly increasing the quality of life of their patients. It's fascinating, and it's just very interesting. So I think that this is going to be a huge market. I just really hope that since we are creating something from new, something brand new, a brand new market, a brand new commodity, I hope that we learn from our lessons with other industries, and I hope that women and minorities play a large role in the companies as they're founded and in the profits of these companies. And I would really love to see the products be American-made, whether it's a vaporizer pen or the machinery to create CO2 extraction machines. We're creating this industry this nascent industry, and we can apply some lessons learned to it and maybe really make this a way to change over some areas that need that economic stimulus here in the United States.
Sure. Very wise
And
words.
where did a lot of this get made now? China?
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Like the vaporizing pens and the different, yes, a lot of the equipment gets made in China. And to be completely fair, I have a lot of business partners who would love to order something made in Ohio,
Sure.
but it's not made in Ohio.
Right. No, I can understand
and because
that.
of the banking issues, and because of there's a lot of reasons why that's not happening that aren't a direct result of someone just trying to get the cheapest product imported. There's other restrictions to that we need to take a close look at very early on before we create this entire infrastructure that is based on manufacturing outside the United States.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't have an issue with the banking because, you don't distribute cannabis at all, but they're having big problems with that, right? Because of the fact that...
Oh, huge problems. Yeah. And, I know I'm saying it out loud right now, but, ancillary businesses do have issues with banking. And they have experienced bank accounts being closed and issues with that. It's interesting how it all, every once in a while there's just a domino and a bunch of people have their bank accounts closed. And it makes it really difficult. One of our Women Grow members, Jan Cole, out of the farm in a dispensary in Boulder, she has 100 employees.
Wow.
At her business there. And when you have these banking issues, it makes for things to be really challenging when they'd like to spend their time, increasing the quality of the product and helping with regulations and all these other important things. Mm-hmm. So we need to start treating them like
you guys got to open a cooperative bank. I'm serious.
There's things happening. I can't speak to any of that,
it's interesting. I just realized it because it's a federal issue, right? But guess what? Well, I don't know how Colorado works, but I know Massachusetts, you could open a cooperative bank and not be federally insured, be state insured.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to these credit card swipes. And
that's a problem,
somewhere in the system, we just need to make a few tweaks and I know the National Cannabis Industry Association, they're the only ones that lobby on a federal level. They're working very hard on 280E, which is the tax code issue that is really tripping everyone up. So,
as soon as Philip Morris gets in the business, it'll be straightened out. And that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, whether it's 3 or 4 years from now, Philip Morris will be in the business. But they will.
Yeah. No,
Sad but true,
really
but they will.
Yes. Well, I hear you.
Well, Jane, it has been a fascinating conversation, and we want to thank you so much for providing such insight into this industry and for all of the information that you've provided. Thank you for joining us. And for our listeners, you can find out more about Jane West and her company, Edible Events Company. It's edibleeventsco.com. Jane, have a beautiful evening.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Jane. Have a great one.
Yeah. Such great info.
Huge.
Fascinating. We're talking about pot yoga. It's a booming industry.
We need a big education here.
Yeah. So, listen, who are we to judge? You make the call yourself. Join us again next week for more mindful living. Until then, peace. Namaste.
Folks.
This is TFNN.